Thank you very much, all. That was a really interesting discussion, and I hope we can pick up the detail from some of the questions in the chat. But Helena, the first one I think has got to go to you. I think we talked through the themes earlier, but the strong theme at the moment is that following the rollover of the grace period in Northern Ireland, are there any plans to delay the GB import requirements?
Thank you. I think, if I may, I'll just take that question in a slightly more to a slightly higher level, which is the UK government going to delay import controls of goods from EU to GB? So as of this moment, businesses do need to continue to prepare for the introduction of import controls based on the requirements that we are setting today. However, of course, if they were to change, we will work extremely closely, not only with businesses, but also with our colleagues in Ireland to ensure that all businesses and all related authorities are aware. I think I will stop there, please, Margaret, and move on.
Thank you. Thank you. I've just been going through the questions, and forgive me, all of you, if I haven't quite picked up all of the detail, but as you've heard from the discussions, there are a number of themes, and one of the big ones are those around health certifications and whether they're required for confectionery, for biscuits, and will there be additional requirements for button mushrooms? I wonder if our colleagues in DEFRA could help us with that, please.
Thank you very much. I think the person that I'm going to start off with, because she hasn't spoken yet, is my colleague on button mushrooms, etc., might be able to help, our plant health imports delivery lead, even though I know that button mushrooms are not plants, they are in fact fungi. But Vicky, are you able to help with that question?
Hello. So there's this question about whether mushrooms need Phytosanitary certificates from the 1st of October. In short, the answer is no. Plant health requirements do not come in until January 2022 in any case. So we're slightly different from products of animal origin, etc. But I think the question's been answered in the chat. Mushrooms are not considered a plant, so are not regulated from a plant health perspective, so therefore will not require a phytosanitary certificate. However, I'm not an expert in this area, but I would suggest that the person who posed the question would want to check whether there are any requirements from a marketing standards perspective for mushrooms as well, so in terms of certificates of conformity. But unfortunately, I'm not an expert in that area, so I can't answer that, but I would advise them to check them requirements.
And of course, if they are organic, that's a whole
organic, yeah, exactly. So thank you.
I am then going to bring in, I'm sorry, Jack, you are a bit of our expert on all things products of animal origin and potentially composites. So Jack, could you come in on some of those composite questions, please? Obviously, I did cover a bit of this in the presentation.
So I think the question, correct me if I'm wrong, was whether confectionery and biscuits would be composite products. Was that right? Mm-hmm. So it will be dependent on the ingredients that make up the product. So if it has animal products in it, then it may be, but there are exemptions that will apply to composite products, which I will not go through in detail now because they are quite long. But there is guidance available, and we can link you to the gov.uk page that sets out what those exemption requirements are. I actually just want to pause and see if Suzanne wants to add anything, because I think she is probably better placed to answer the composite specific questions than I am.
Hi.
Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, yeah, it's Suzanne. I have actually put some answers in the chat on confectionery and biscuits. If they fall within the scope of Annex 2 of Retained Decision 2007-275, then they will not be subject to controls at the border, will not need a health certificate. And as Jack said, they might, if they're covered by composite products and meet the requirements of Article 6, again, they would be exempt from the conditions. I haven't actually put the link to the gov.uk guidance in the chat, but as Jack said, we can provide that later.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you very much. Just linked to the health certificates question, there was a question about whether small parcels, so business sending goods, for instance, an example given with smoked salmon to consumers in the UK, would they still need certificates? If I'm right, I think it doesn't matter about the size of and the recipient, they will still need certificates if the goods require a certificate. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. They will still be subject to SPS controls.
Lovely. And is there a nice step?
Sorry, can I just cut in there? If they're personal imports, then they would be exempt. So if it's personal imports, I think it's less than 20 kilos or the size of a small fish when we're talking about fishery products.
So is that when you bring something back with you?
Exactly. That would be somebody going to Ireland on holiday, finding some lovely Irish smoked salmon or whatever and wanting to take it back with them. That would be a personal import. Anything that is a business, as in you are sending a package back to you are sending a package for a business reason, that would definitely require a certificate.
Thank you. And there's a step-by-step guide. Is there for businesses who need to start on this road now? Is there a handy link that they can look through? I'm sure if somebody could post the link in the chat, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a lot of questions about certificates not being available when the goods are being loaded onto a truck. Is it possible to send a copy of the certificate? Because of course, as we know, they should travel with the goods. Is it possible to ship that via courier to a pre-agreed point, such as the BCP in the UK?
Jack, can you answer that one?
I will. I don't know if Anthony wants to come in after me, but it is a requirement that the original EHC needs to be available and provided to the officials if they request it. It is essentially for the exporter or the logistics handler to make sure that those documents are available and presented at the BCP if requested. That may mean enclosing the documents inside a container that they travel with the driver, or hand them, some other way of handing them over in person. But I think the key point is that they have to be available if they are requested. But again, I don't know if Anthony wants to come in and add anything to that.
No, thanks, Jack. That covers it nicely from my perspective.
Thank you. And there was a question in the chat, which and apologies if you've already picked it up for DAFM colleagues, about whether checks would be done in Ireland to ensure that a certificate is travelling when the goods leave Ireland for GB. I wonder if Damien and team could pick that one up.
Okay.
Your mute seems to have speeded up now, Damien.
Oh, is it? So can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, live.
Just as well I didn't curse there when I thought it wasn't on me. So yeah, look, I'll let my colleagues, but we won't be doing any checking on certs at ports or as they leave the country or anything. I think there was a question about that, and I think one of our trader reps actually raised that question as well in advance with us. So that's my understanding, but maybe Lorna can confirm that for me.
We have a temperamental Teams session this morning. Sorry, Lorna. How's the unmute going?
Or if one of our other colleagues could jump in maybe and unmute. Rob,
can you hear me? I'm working, yeah. So yeah, I can answer that. Like there'll be no once the consignment leaves the certification point, we'll have no further checks on ports of exit. Like the load will then travel unhindered.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. They should have the certs. Right. I'm going to come on to IPAFs. Jack, I know you covered a lot about IPAFs, and forgive me if I'm going over old ground, but just to be very clear, can an Irish exporter use IPAFs? Do they need to be established in the UK to register on IPAFs, and if so, they'd have to get an agent then if they weren't established in the UK. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they are required to have a UK based entity.
We do have, I think Angela Cooper here is the IPAFs project manager, if she wants to bring in any other points of detail about IPAFs and IPAFs use. Angela?
Hello, can you hear me all right?
We can.
Yeah. So yeah, Jack's correct. You do need to be UK based. Yeah, there's not much else to add really.
Okay. While we have
Margaret, could I come in on that one? Just, I think there was a question. Just while we're on iPads, there was a question from I think it might have been Paul or Aidan about transits, and obviously there's no GB entity normally involved in a transit transaction. So I don't think we covered that one in the trader session. So maybe could you cover that one about who does the iPath for?
No, I think that's a good idea. I was actually going to ask Scott Rainey to come in and talk a bit about transits if there was an opportune moment. Scott, are you able to come in and talk about transits?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. So yes, just picking up that question around pre-notification and having a UK entity for transits. Now, obviously for transits, we wouldn't have a UK entity, so we will come back to you separately to this in terms of whether there is any scope to allow a non-UK entity to fill in IPAF's pre-notification for transit goods going across GB. But yeah, I may just need to come back to that point after this if I can and confirm.
Scott, I can do that for you now.
Okay, thank you.
That's helpful. I had a conversation with Elijah about this a couple of days ago. You will still need a UK entity. It's because it needs to be traceable. And so, yes, in that situation, you would need to employ a UK-based agent to handle that part of the movement for you.
Thank you both. So while we're on the subject of transit, I thought another couple of questions came in about what happens if the EU supplier does not have an EHC and does not pre-notify from the 1st of October if they're transiting through the land bridge?
Right. Yeah. So I will come in on this one as well. So I would think this is the principle is similar to what I talked about for imports earlier. It is, of course, a requirement that you do, and you will need to do so. But ultimately, this period from the 1st of October to the end of December, will give you vital feedback on whether the notification and the health certificates have been completed correctly. And again, in line with the direct imports, there won't be any customs holds as these goods arrive, but from the 1st of January there will be. And if if the Port Health Authority determine that the notification is incorrect or the EHC has errors or it hasn't been submitted, then those goods will be held and possibly rejected.
Thank you. Unless anybody else wanted to come in on a transit related subject, but this one more for our customs colleagues. This is about whether the GB authorities need to be notified as goods leave the UK. If they're transiting from Ireland through GB, do they need to notify authorities when leaving GB? My understanding for transit is that you would not have to do that, because when you arrive in the new customs territory, say France, for instance, your Office of Transit notification there will alert authorities here. Is that correct, Claire? Lindsay, are you?
Hi, Margaret. I think we've got James from our transit team on.
Perfect.
He may want to come in on this, but yeah, you're quite right. It really depends on where your Office of Destination and Transit and Departure are listed on your routeway. That's what you need to declare.
Yeah.
Can I just come in on that point as well from a SPS biosecurity perspective? There is a requirement for SPS goods transiting GB to notify when they leave GB territory, and we're expecting an email notification coming through to a central point to confirm that they've actually left the country.
I see. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and Margaret, I should have added, of course, that our exit summary declarations, safety and security declarations, we have got a waiver in place at the moment for goods moving through RoRo, including where they're under transit. That will come to an end in October. So the safety and security declarations will need to take place. But there is a default on that, and we are working with carriers and hauliers because there is an automatic default that there's a notification through Chief CDS and NCTS. So more on that, I'm sure there'll be plenty more guidance on transit movements in coming days.
Can I just add an IPAFS point to that as well? So when you're creating your notification on IPAFS, if you choose reason for movement as transit, you'll be asked to enter your exit date and port in the service as well.
Thank you all very much. I'm going to come back to IPAFS and a few more technical questions, just for you already. One of our attendees talked about having done a test in IPAFS, and they've submitted some documents and it shows that the status as submitted. Is that correct? Is there any more they need to do now?
No, I did respond in the chat to this one.
Thank you, Angela. Sorry, I haven't been picking up all the answers.
Yeah, so as soon as it says submitted, that's everything that you need to do in IPAFS. That means the BCP have now got a copy of it and they will do their checks. If there is any additional feedback on it, any of the documents, then they will get back in touch using your contact details that you supply via Government Gateway.
Thank you. Does a haulier need proof that the IPAFS has done? Does the haulier or the driver just need to have the health certificates?
I wouldn't say they must have evidence, but if they do want to have evidence for their own sort of confidence that it's been created, you can download the notification in IPAFS. So you just download it as a web page, and that can be sent across if need be.
Thank you. I've got a question I'm just going to throw out to all of you now about SPS goods coming into GB for export from GB, coming from Ireland to GB to be consolidated and then exported out of here. Must they remain under bond in the UK? And if they are, do they have to be consolidated in a bonded warehouse? And if they're going to be unloaded in the UK, what is it? What is the requirements there? Is that a tricky one?
I don't know if we have any colleagues who cover exporting, so I won't try and answer this on their behalf.
I think we have very intentionally brought colleagues who are imports experts with a transit focus, occasional transit focus. So we don't necessarily have the right experts. But Anthony, you did come on video.
I did.
Maybe
yes,
you will be able to answer. However,
I could try. It might not be the final answer, but so if the goods have been brought into the UK market and into the GB market particularly, and are in free circulation, then in order to move them to the EU, they need to follow the normal EU export rules and requirements, including certification. The bit I'm more hazy about is the use of bonded warehouses, where as I understand that to mean they haven't entered free circulation and under some sort of customs hold, in which case that's more of a transit question of, you know, EU transiting UK going back to EU, and that's where I get a bit hazy. So I think it might be worth taking this away and consulting those that have been involved with the transits from the reverse side, looking at it from a EU transit EU perspective rather than the other way around. But so we might want to come back with more details, but that's the best I can provide right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was a tricky one. It might be better to come back with written detail, and we'll liaise with our customs colleagues. Right. One of the attendees just mentioned a video that DAFM has produced about sealing a pallet, and they wanted confirmation that that was acceptable to DEFRA. And there are a number of other questions about official seals and some clarification sought about when an official seal is needed. I don't know if you've been picking those up as you go through the chat, but if somebody could come on and clarify the position on seals.
Sorry, Margaret, I don't know if anybody else didn't catch it, but I heard you mention a video, but I didn't catch the rest of the first part of what you said.
Apologies, sorry. So one of the attendees has mentioned a video that DAFM has produced, which sets out how to seal a pallet. And the attendee asked if that particular approach is acceptable to DEFRA. There were then some follow-up questions about there's some confusion about whether an official seal is needed or not, and if not, will the seal section on the EHC be left blank? So there were a number of questions about seals, and I just thought it might be useful to clarify the position.
Rather than go into the specifics, perhaps we could just talk about, rather than answer the specific question, let's just talk about seals, just make sure that we're correct. And just so maybe Jack, can you cover off seals with some colleagues? I think that would be enormously helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So where we mention official seals, essentially we mean that the seal has been placed in sight of the certifying officer, and they've certified that seal was placed in front of them, and it's been annotated and signed on the EHC. In terms of what seals, we don't specify a type of seal that must be used. So in this scenario, if our Irish colleagues are happy to certify that the product has been sealed, we will accept that the product has been sealed in front of the certifying officer. The requirement for official seals is stipulated on certain health certificates, I believe, and it's certainly not the case for all health certificates. They don't all mandate an official seal being placed. That obviously has a slight difference when we're talking about the linear groupage model, where an official sealing is a part of that in order to make that model work. I'm going to pause because I think Anthony may be able to offer more on sealing, which will be helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So supporting that, so that if you're using the groupage models, then you're likely to see a requirement for sealing as part of that model. The principle when using, a pallet level seal would be that it needs to maintain the integrity of the consignment and also link that consignment to the export health certificate. I think the video is being referred to, if I'm thinking of the right one, this is a video showing different options that industry has come up with in order to try and seal at a pallet level rather than at a truck level. Obviously, there could be a million different ways of achieving the same results, and I think DEFRA have produced their own guidance as well that I can remember seeing. Using nets or cages, or there are different means, but I don't think we can say in advance, without having actually seen the pallet in front of us, what will or won't be acceptable. It would be a matter of if you're looking to use a new type of pallet level seal that inspection post hasn't seen before, then it would be worth either doing a trial run or sending photographic evidence and agreeing in advance what that might look like to try and reduce the chance of pallet level seals being rejected. But there isn't one standardized way of doing it. It just needs to meet the objectives of sealing. So I think that's where we're sat, although I see that we've got a hand up.
Hi, Margaret, if you'd mind if I could just come in for a second, because this is a query which has come from a number of our members, and maybe I can add a little bit of additional detail. So it really relates to the DEFRA's groupage webinar, which took place, was I think last week or the week before, the one that was run sort of 2 days in a row. And there's a slide there, slide 34, which describes a number of sealing options. It's a non-exhaustive list because it starts off by saying forms of pallet level seal could include, and then it talks about strapping with shrink wrap, or the straps cross over both ways, wire wrap with shrink wrap, sealed large reusable netting, and so on. So it lists 3 or 4 options there, but it's obviously a non-exhaustive list. On the other hand, some of the information we've received from the Department of Agriculture here in Ireland uses a photograph where we see actually tape used instead. So a question which is coming from a number of our members is tape actually a suitable alternative? And again, the rest of it happens under the normal process with the official veterinarian and so on, but it's just actually the actual securing method, using tape and then using a tamper-proof seal at the point where you get the crossover of the tape.
don't know if anyone else can comment. From my perspective, I couldn't confirm that's okay without actually seeing how the tape was being used. And it's a matter of looking at the pallet and saying, is it possible for anyone to tamper with that pallet, add or remove products without the seal being, with the seal remaining intact, i.e. the seal needs to be broken in order for anything to change on the pallet. But without seeing it, I couldn't say whether or not that was acceptable. But Damien, I don't know if you're about to come in.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Yeah, sorry, my system dropped, so I'm on my colleague's line at the moment. So yeah, look at it. I think maybe I'll get one of my colleagues, Lorna, maybe to come in on sealing more generally, just to explain what we're doing on sealing and where that's coming from. I mean, as I understand it, we've kind of piggybacked on the work the UK did on their export sealing for pallet level seals, and we're trying to follow as much as possible what the work they've done since the 1st of January on that. But Lorna, maybe can you come in on that and just give a bit more background?
I hope you can hear me there now, Damien.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose just as regards seals, we're not being too prescriptive around the seals, except that they must be robust, numbered and tamper evident. So that's the first thing. And that ties in with what Anthony said there, that if it's a mechanism to secure the consignment so that there can be no substitution or it can't be interfered with post certification. So what we've been saying to people is that they must engage locally and with staff who will be doing the certification, so that they can demonstrate exactly the seal type that they intend to use and see if it's appropriate and fit for purpose. So that's how people should proceed as regards pallet seals. They should, as we were saying before, engage locally, give a demonstration of the type of seal that was intended to be used on the pallets, and agree with the certifying officer how they would be applied or if they're suitable. So,
thank you. I didn't realise I'd started a lively conversation, and I've just seen the time is running away with us. We've got only a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to leave it there. Unless there's anything any of our officials, Helena, Damien, you'd like to say just before we finish up, any key points you'd want to bring out?
Yeah, maybe I'll start from the Irish side. Look, I want to thank all the contributors today, both from DAFM, DEFRA, HMRC, BPDG, all the Irish colleagues as well for giving their time, and industry and businesses for logging on. I think there's a lot of questions still. We can see that. I think the chat obviously shows that, and even the interaction with the Trader Association. So I think this is not finished. We need to follow up on this, and we need to work through some of these issues. There are some key issues around the land bridge in particular, which we're concerned about. So I think we will be following up offline with you on some of those to get further clarity, and also issues around obviously some of the questions today spilt into 1 January and how the BCPs will work. And I think there's a whole other raft of questions there. We didn't address issues like how's the progress at BCPs, where will they be, how will that work? So I think there's a whole extra layer of questions that will be open that we have to follow up on that. I mean, in terms of the 1st of October, the key message from our side is to engage with us, engage locally, and also engage with all the different resources that we have and the call centres that we have. We need to engage and communicate. So we're open to doing that, and we want to do that, and we will pass messages on to our UK colleagues as well. So again, I just want to say thank you to everybody for participating. Helena, her team, Margaret, you and your team, and my own colleagues for all the work they've done on this. And thank you to our contributors in session 2 as well. They put a strong effort in as well. So again, just to say to them as well, I think they had some specific questions, so we will come back on those as well. I think anything we missed today, I think we will definitely commit to coming back with written answers on those as well. So thank you. Maybe I'll just hand over to Helen. I don't know whether you want to say anything and before Margaret wraps up.
I'm just going to echo completely Damien's thanks, particularly to all of our Irish counterparts who we continue to work exceptionally closely with, and I'm very, very grateful for all of the close collaboration that we have, which you are seeing in this truly joint event. Of course, to all my DEFRA colleagues for joining, as well as BPDG colleagues. Obviously, key messages for 1st of October. Ensure that you get your health certificate if you need one, and that your importer pre-notifies for products of animal origin. I will leave it there. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Thank you all. Yes, I think this is the first time we've done an event like this, having the technical session in the middle of it. I think it's gone well. We've brought lots of information out, and I suspect we could sit here all day talking about all of these things, but we will share the recording, we will be sharing the slides, and we will capture all of your questions, and we will provide answers to them and publish those for you as well. But it just remains for me to say thank you to everybody who's participated today, and you, the audience, for joining us. Thank you.